Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about having the Sun in the zodiac sign Cancer and a Gemini Ascendant in a natal chart. Now, the first thing is obviously the Gemini rising will cloak and camouflage the Cancer Sun strongly. And this person may be a lot more vivacious, whimsical, more outgoing, sociable, more lively, and more extroverted, more engaging in terms of conversation with others than the typical Sun and Cancer personality. The thing is, this person with a Gemini Ascendant basically being the cover for the Cancer Sun, so to speak. This person will, and more likely than not, they won't be so readily showing their feelings if they're hurt, because the Gemini rising is such where they don't really, they generally won't show that much hurt on the surface. And if you have a Sun in Cancer, this person might feel hurt if there's something derisive or negative or derogatory said about him or her, but they're likely not to show it that strongly on the surface, but it may still hurt that person inwardly. This could be a person that may be very talkative and loquacious, like in their home and with their family members, thus incorporating some Cancer and Gemini attributes. And this could be somebody that might have very strong, they might talk a lot about their feelings and their emotions with a lot of Gemini loquaciousness. Now, the thing about this is, what's important to remember is that you look at the Sun sign, and that represents our basic wants, and the rising sign or ascendant could show the manner or method in which one attains these basic wants. The basic wants of Cancer, of the zodiac sign Cancer, can be having the home, having a family, emotional security, and it can be also connected with their emotional expression. Now, having Gemini rising, perhaps these Cancer basic wants might be attained through something Gemini-like. It might be attained perhaps through maybe connecting through talking with the right people, being street savvy, having a lot of a street sense, their general shrewdness through conversation. It can be attained perhaps through Gemini Gemini type careers. I had a friend that's actually born on the same date as me in the same year. He's a Sun in Cancer with Gemini rising. I believe he worked, or I don't know if he still works as a carpenter, but I believe he had previously. And Gemini rising can be adept at this because Gemini rising can be dexterous. So it could be done through some job connected with dexterity, such as working as a carpenter or an auto mechanic is another example. Perhaps some communication fields such as data communications or information technology could be done through writing, some kind of something literary, such as it could be writing, or even like broadcasting could be another example of this. Now, a lot of this can depend on the aspect that the Sun in Cancer makes to the Gemini Ascendant. Now, in some cases, the person could actually have a conjunction form between their Sun in Cancer and Gemini Ascendant. Let's say somebody has the Sun in Cancer at 1 degree and they have Gemini Ascendant at 29 degrees. This could be an out of sign conjunction, and this could be where these qualities amalgamate and they could be intensified. Now, by sign, these are neutral. I don't see this as either compatible or incompatible. So that's why in cases like this, if you have a sun sign and rising sign that are one sign from each other, that are adjacent, the aspects can make a strong difference if you have an aspect between that sun and that ascendant. Now, another example, you could have let's say you could have an out of sign sextile, which is positive and auspicious and could be a good integration of these energies. Now, let's say somebody, for example, has their Cancer Sun at 28 degrees, and they have their Gemini, the Cancer Sun at 28 degrees and the Gemini Ascendant at 0 degrees. This would form an out of sign sextile aspect, which would be positive and could have a good blending of the Sun in Cancer, that nurturing quality, that sympathetic quality, along with the Gemini rising communication ability. Now, another example could be a semi-sextile, which is a minor aspect. Let's say somebody has the Sun in Cancer at 8 degrees and Gemini Ascendant at 9 degrees. This would form a semi-sextile aspect, which would be slightly positive, somewhat auspicious, but not as strong or as intense as the sextile aspect. And let's say somebody has, you can actually have in some cases a semi-square aspect take place between the Sun in Cancer and Gemini Ascendant. Let's say, for example, somebody has the Sun in Cancer at 27 degrees and they have their Gemini Ascendant at 12 degrees. This would be slightly adverse, and it could cause a little bit of inner conflict and a little exasperation, and this person may feel maybe somewhat misunderstood or misconstrued by others, and due to the fact that what their outer demeanor, whether they're astrologically cognizant of this or not, their outer demeanor may be different, strongly different than what their inner self may be, what is actually not being shown as readily to others. Now, another thing to look at is the house placement of the Cancer Sun, because even if the energy of the Sun is somewhat suppressed due to the Gemini Ascendant, the Cancer Sun can still come out, at least fairly strongly, in matters pertaining to that particular house that it's in. Let's say that somebody has the Sun in Cancer in their first house, and they have the Gemini rising Sun in Cancer in the first house. Well, this could be somebody where they feel they might be a little bit more attention getting than the typical Cancer Sun Gemini Ascendant combo, and they want to stand out perhaps and be prominent and a little bit more showy, and they could be strongly, the energy can be connected with that person's own personal needs, their own self. Not that they're necessarily egocentric, but maybe in some cases may come off as that, maybe to some degree. Now, if they have the Sun in Cancer in the second house, these Cancerian qualities may come out strongly in matters connected with their possessions, such as being very sensitive and nurturing toward their possessions and toward their, as far as matters connected with income generated, their money and their resources. And if the Sun, in some cases, Sun in Cancer might be in the third house. Now, this could give kind of a little bit of accentuate the Gemini Ascendant or rising attributes a little bit, or at least give that little more Gemini flavoring, because the third house does correspond with the zodiac sign Gemini, and this person might use a lot of that nurture, that sensitivity and sympathy of the Cancer Sun may come out strongly in their communications, and though that emotional side might come out in matters pertaining to their communications and their siblings in general, in matters connected with their short journeys and their things with transportation, such as their vehicles. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for having the Sun in Cancer and Gemini Ascendant in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about having the Sun in Cancer and Leo Ascendant in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.